Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a pleasure to be back with you on this beautiful Tuesday night, a night of UEFA Champions League action as it is ongoing. Real Madrid are 2-0 behind against Bayern Munich, while Arsenal and Sporting Lisbon, that game is still goalless. So that's what is happening tonight. We'll be following the Champions League action from the night, and it will be our focus of discussion. So please do join me as we go through it all. Those are opening halves are very unconvincing, particularly for that Arsenal side against Sporting CP. I have thought that they have looked no much different from what they have always looked in terms of, being a bit negative on the ball, trying to be too cautious, always looking for that backward pass as opposed to the forward pass, that kind of thing. It's really, really typical of Arsenal. So I do not think you can divorce them of it at the moment. They've done it time and again, and it just seems to be the story that rolls on and on and on. I do remember one particular moment, in the opening half where you had Declan Rice make 3 passes to Martin Odegaard, who wasn't being pressed on the ball, and what he was seeking, that's Declan Rice, was for Martin Odegaard to turn and face the goal of the opponent. Meanwhile, he is down, and it could be wise for the Arsenal because, unfortunately for them, they do not have Ebeleche Eze on the touchline, on the bench, at least to the best of my recollection. When I looked over at the bench in terms of their starting 11s, and the substitute bench, I did not see Ebere Eze. So if he were to be withdrawn, you could see maybe a Kai Havertz slot in. You could see, I don't know, you could see a Max Dorman. Bukayo Saka isn't up for it. So he's receiving treatment. And we know that he just returned from injury to start the game against Southampton, which Arsenal lost by 2-1. Now, Arsenal currently, unfortunately, have a lot of underperformers in that team, with the likes of Leandro Trossard. Ever since he lost his form, that was in the first half of the season, or after the first half of the season, he's not been the same player. So, yeah. So for those of you that are just joining us, welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. I do come to you live from Kampala, Uganda, where it's about 25 minutes past the hour of 11 p.m. Down here in Kampala, Uganda. If you're just joining us, good to have you on the broadcast. Your name is Nori? Is it Nori? Oh, Jesus Christ. I have some dirt on my screen. Yes. Nori says, hello, bro. Where are you from? I'm from Kampala, Uganda. Thanks for asking. Wow. Arsenal have a goal. Literally out of nothing. But somebody is limping. It will be reviewed. But it's not looked easy or pretty. In fact, as busy. Oh. Wow. That's a strike from distance, from the edge of the 18-yard box, from Martin Zubimendi, and it catches the back of the net. The goal won't stand, unfortunately for them. The goal won't stand. It's been ruled offside because Victor Gyökeres, who was part in the play, did come from an offside position. That's the communication we are getting, so the goal doesn't stand. In terms of how the two sides are deploying themselves, you do have Arsenal. Okay, sorry, couldn't understand where. Kampala, Uganda. Yes, Uganda, small landlocked country in the eastern part of Africa. neighbors are Kenya, Tanzania, South Sudan, DRC Congo, and Rwanda. Those are the countries with which we share borders. Small landlocked country, nestled somewhere in East Africa. So that's where I'm joining you live from. You know, oh, okay. So, like I was saying, Arsenal started with David Ryan goal, Gabriel Magalhaes, William Saliba, Ben White, Ricardo Carafiori, Martin Zubimendi, Declan Rice, Martin Odegaard, Noni Madueke, Leandro Trossard, Victor Gyökeres. Yeah, Victor Gyökeres was coming from an offside position when he sort of participated in play to provide the assist there for Martin Zubimendi. So that's why the goal did not stand. It was ruled out. I hope Arsenal fans out there, you hadn't over-celebrated, because it looked as clear as broad daylight from where I was standing that he had been in an offside position. So that's why. Let's see. We have Sanjay. Sanjay says, hello there. Where are you from? I'm from Kampala, Uganda. Thanks for asking. I'm from India. Nice to meet you there. Nice to meet you too, Sanjay. I hope you're good. Shout out for a free island trip. What do you do for a living? I do. I'm a man that wears so many hats. I do content creation. I do social media marketing, social media management and marketing, digital PR and communications, all that kind of work. I'm also a writer in the sense, but that's more of a hobby than it is a profession. But yeah, those are the things I do. But most of the times I'm here. Therefore, that's why I do appreciate your kind love and support. So kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel and help me support me on this journey of growing this community of Football Tribe UG. Okay, DJ Nick Chopper says, do you have a job? No, I do not have a job. I have clients. Yeah, I lost my job back in February 2025. That's when I lost my job. So now I do clients for whom I do social media management, digital marketing, and things like that. Oh, Sanjay, no, I'm not. So for those of you that are just joining us, yeah, that is the situation in that regard. I was just briefing you briefly on how Arsenal set themselves up. Really, on the other side, Sporting CP have Rui Silva, they have Ivan Frasneda, they have Osman Diomande, had a very brilliant first half. Goncalo Inacio, Araujo, Maximiliano Araujo, Joao Pedro Simons, Morita. This one got a booking in the first half. Gini Catamo, Francesco Trincao. They have Pedro Goncalves and Luis Silva. That's how they did set up for Sporting CP there. Meanwhile, like I told you, Bayern Munich are having a 2-0 lead against Real Madrid. Goals from Harry Kane, and that was in the second half. Whereas in the first half, it was Luis Diaz that scored to make it 1-0 with a brilliant pass from Serge Gnabry to let him through, or to give him that, through pass. Brilliant pass it was, And then Michael Olise turned the provider for, Harry Kane, as has been for the entirety of this season. Bayern Munich have looked by far the better side in that regard. When you look at their starting levels, I was a bit taken a bit back when they played Dinhausen ahead of Eder Militao, who is back in the starting 11. Trent Arnold is at right back, Antonio Rudiger, Alvaro Carreras, Fede Valverde, Thiago Pina, Chouameni, Adagula, Kylian Mbappe, and Vinicius Junior. Those formulated Real Madrid's starting 11, but they have made some amends, withdrawing Thiago Pina for Jude Bellingham. Eder Militao came in for Dinhausen, something that I had hoped that they would start with, while Brahim Diaz came on for Adagula. Then on the side of Bayern Munich, they did start with Manuel Neuer in goal, Jonathan Tah, David Upamecano, Josip Stanisic, Konrad Lemar, while Alexander Pavlovich is in that midfield, and then Joshua Kimmich is in that midfielder as well. Ahead of him is Michael Olise, Serge Gnabry, Luis Diaz, and Harry Kane. quite the brilliant attack that you do have on your hands. But some changes have been made with Alfonso Davies coming on for Conrad Lema, while Jamal Musiala did come in for Serge Gnabry. That's what is happening there in that regard. So yeah, you're not missing out on much. In case you're just joining us, Arsenal Sporting Lisbon is still goalless. While the game between Real Madrid, Arsenal looking to make amends, they are bringing on Kai Havertz for the captain Martin Odegaard. That means the captain's armband will be slipped down to Gabriel Magalhaes. Yes, he has that sort of limp to him. It looks like his knee has an issue, which is what he was nursing prior to his return. I don't think he'll be too proud of his performance because it's not been brilliant. It's not been brilliant. I didn't feel encouraged watching him. Oh, it's a goal for Real Madrid. They pulled one back. That is through a corner kick. Once again. Oh, sorry. But yeah, Real Madrid have a goal and it's 2-1 against Bayern Munich. I think that's what they would have loved to see in this game and more. Let's see who the goal scorer is. My feed is a little bit behind. Okay, DJ Chopper. Oh, sorry. Apologies. DJ Nick Chopper says, can you work in Kenya? Why not? I can. What's the offer in Kenya? DJ Chopper. Uh-oh. I made a mess of that one. Christian Nogard giving a few words of encouragement to his captain. Trust Mikel Arteta to wait his substitutions until he's been forced to do so. I'm your new subscriber. Thank you so much, Sanjay, for loving and supporting this channel. Most of my fans, or many of them, I'd say, are from India, by the way. And the one thing I really appreciate about my team India is that most of them that have been supporting this channel or that continuously do support it, even on a semi-regular basis, that most of them are not even football fans, you know? So, and yet, even in the midst of their love for cricket, their love for, tech, among other things, they do spare the time to come and support this channel. So you say, come visit India, bro. I would love to meet you there. Well, to be honest, you're not the first person to send me an invitation to India. I do look forward to honoring that invitation someday for Team India. And unfortunately, at the moment, I do not have the capacity financially to make the trip. But if for purposes of context, Uganda does have a very large Indian community. So maybe someday, sometime. So that goal for Real Madrid was scored by Kylian Mbappe, which is his 14th goal of the campaign. Hurricane has now 11 goals, so Kylian Mbappe is leading. Oh, Hurricane attempted the half volley on a quick turn. It just did not materialize the way perhaps he had envisioned it. If it had hit the target, it was going to be quite the strike, Now, in terms of impressions as far as this game's go, Arsenal been Arsenal, really. For me, I don't know. The one thing I've appreciated about Sporting Lisbon, actually, it's not one thing. It's actually been two things. One, they've always looked to play those offensive passes, trying to play line-breaking passes. They have not been successful with them, but at least they attempt them as often as they can. For a moment in the first half, they were going for those long passes from the back end because they were struggling to play from out of the back. Now, And then you had, I think, you had Usman Diomande, play one of those being a successful pass. It's the goal scorer on the other side that could not make it count. So, and yet in contrast, you have Arsenal largely going for negative passes, looking always to play it backwards as though that's where they're trying to score. It really, really, I don't think it baffles me anymore. It simply irritates for a football fan, because if you want to wish for a team to score, then you don't want to see them play negative passes. It's as simple as that. And yet that's what they constantly do, Okay. Let me read some of your comments. Okay, you say no problem, brother. One day you will succeed in life. Just have faith in God. I do have the faith. Thank you so much for the words of encouragement. You married? No. Saif Ahmed says hi. Hi, Saif Ahmed. Good to have you on the broadcast. Kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel. Guys, you're 27 of you, and we only have 2 likes on the broadcast. Please do not, your fingers won't get damaged if you tap that like button, but also if you do subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. And by the way, if you can afford to, you can also buy me a cup of coffee just for me to quench my thirst or wet down my throat. That option at least is there for the channel in case you can spare $1. But that's not the issue. The issue that I really, really want is your continued love and support. To watch the content, to keep subscribing, to keep commenting, so that our content can be further recommended to other, people over similar interests in that regard. Okay, I think I've read all Saifi's comments. There's somebody whose comment I had not read. Jeffrey Epstein, really? Who are you when you're completely alone with your thoughts? I'm an introvert. I'll say that. Sanjay says, you live alone? Not really. But this is a private space where I get to do these broadcasts. So to avoid any interruptions whatsoever. So yeah, that's what's happening. I hope you guys have clicked that subscribe button. I know we're at about 4,300 subscribers. So please keep watching, keep supporting what we do, and let's keep growing the forum together. Apologies on that. Was just having something tested. Okay, what time is it there? We are 2 hours behind you, Sanjay. So it's 11:40 p.m. and I would understand it is around 1:40 a.m. on your side. I stand to be corrected, but I would assume that's the time check on your side. Then we have somebody whose comment is whose name is in a language that I do not think I'm at liberty to read, but you say he seems tall. Okay, thank you. I'm not tall. About what? 5 feet, 5'7"? Oh, was a brilliant cutback from Karafuri, but no Arsenal player was in the box to latch on that one. Korean, maybe, I do not know. I wouldn't want to speculate so much. I'm not very good at guessing when it comes to languages, because my language sort of capital is quite limited to English and 1 or 2 native languages. Oh, Gatamo. Oof. Okay. Oh, Abed Dumo says South Africa is 22:40 hours and you 11:40 hours. So South Africa, we are 1 hour ahead of South Africa. So thank you so much, Abed Dum, for joining us. Kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel. It's a pleasure to have you around. We are following up on the updates from the UEFA Champions League for the game between Real Madrid and Bayern Munich, as well as that game between Sporting CP and Arsenal. As we speak, it is Bayern Munich 2, 1 Real Madrid. Goals for Bayern Munich scored by Luis Diaz and Harry Kane, while Kylian Mbappe scored to pull one back for the home side, and the one between Arsenal and Sporting CP is still goalless. Remember, Sporting CP are yet to lose a game in the UEFA Champions League this season, while Arsenal are also yet to lose a game on the road in the UEFA Champions League this season. So, that's how it's playing out. I'll support you, bro. Keep it up and do not compromise in hard working. Never have I ever. By the way, for those of you that care to know, and this is for Sanjay particularly, because of his words of encouragement. This is my coming on to the third year of this channel, and we've never relented. Of course, in the first year of it, we weren't doing this as much, but these days, I do live broadcasts every single day, Monday to Saturday, every morning. That's between 9 and 10 a.m. And then at night at 11 p.m. That's when we do come to you live every single day, Monday to Sunday, with the exception of Friday, because Friday we come at around 9 p.m. For the weekend preview. Which country are you from? It's Uganda. I don't know if you've had the chance of hearing about that country with black, yellow, red as our national flag colors, with the crested crane at the center of it. Our neighbors are Tanzania, Kenya, DRC Congo, South Sudan in the north, DRC Congo in the west, Kenya to the east, Rwanda to the southwest, and Tanzania to the main south. So yeah, that's where I am from. Thank you so much, Abed, for asking. What part of South Africa are you from? KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng, Johannesburg, Durban, Pretoria, Cape Town. Those are some of the popular places that at least I get to hear in terms of South Africa. Soweto, Mpumalanga. What part of the country are you from? Oh, Cape Town, one of the most beautiful places or sites of South Africa that I have seen online. I've never been to South Africa but I've seen, there's a YouTube channel called Cool Vision. That gentleman did a tour of South Africa, and that's where I got to explore it, digitally. And then there's a gentleman, I think he calls him what? The guy that does Snake City. I've forgotten his name. He has a show on Nat Geo World. He's always catching snakes in Durban and other major cities around South Africa, especially during the summer. Is it called Smokey? No, not Smokey. I've forgotten his name, but I'm sure those that have had the chance of watching Nat Geo World could relate to what I'm talking about. Sporting CP were this close to getting into the lead. David Raya had to recover quite definitely to his near post. It's sort of a diving header to the absolute near post. You could think that maybe Gabriel Magalhaes and William Saliba had temporarily blocked his vision, but somehow he was able to see that. Sanjay says, I have never been to South Africa, but I would love to visit in the future and meet you, brother. That's for you, Abed Adum. That's the comment from Sanjay. South Africa is one of those most multinational or sort of multicultural countries that you'll find, that's why it's sometimes dubbed the rainbow nation. They have the Afrikaners, they have the indigenous people, the Zulu, majority of them being Zulu. They have the Xhosa. They have, I don't know how they call predominantly, how they call the majority of their white community, but, the multicultural country, Sotho, yes, yeah. Yeah, true. You know, this may not be a football thing, but okay, Abed, what team do you support? And Sanjay, what teams do you support? Tswana, yeah. In Uganda, back in the days when I was still in school, we would study South African history. So that's how I got to know some of those things. Mm. Mm. Actually, I'm not Sanjay. Actually, I'm not Sanjieta. I'm daughter using my mother's phone. It's all right. It's all right for as long as you've age. So for as long as you've age. Oh, come on, that was too clumsy, Kai Havertz. You can't just concede possession as though it's for fun. That wasn't pretty. I am Ash. I am Isha, Ishanvi, and I am 18. In profile, it's my mom. Okay, okay. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. So, any sport you like? I find your name a bit difficult for me to pronounce. Do you mind if I call you Ishan? Ishanvi? Ishan? Do you mind if I call you Ishan as short form? If it's not offensive, you know. Any sport that is of your interest? For those of you that are just joining us, kindly like the podcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel if it is your first time here with us. For those that are returnees, regulars, semi-regulars, it's a pleasure to see you. Oh, Arsenal are starting to live dangerously. David Raya had to scramble on that one, could not get a strong hold of the ball. Incident was checked and cleared, but I thought Katamo was going to go for the long pass because he had a running teammate on the other back end of the box, but he chose to go for himself. I really love the proactiveness of the Sporting CP side at the through passes that they are playing. They are attempting them as many times as they can without hesitation, without reservation that they are going to get it wrong. They just keep attempting it. You know, do you live with parents? No, 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 no. I don't live with parents. I love it. A bit says football. Okay. Any particular team, whether in South Africa, whether in Europe, any particular teams that you pay allegiance to? You said you're from Cape Town. Um, is it Kaiser Chiefs? Is it Orlando Pirates? Is it Mamelodi Sundowns? Supersport United? Chipa? Um, Mpumalanga? The Black Horses? Amazuru Stars? Oh, oh, Polokwane. Oh, Polokwane City. Okay, that's interesting. And outside South Africa, any that you pay allegiance to? Um, okay, Ishani. Any particular sport that you like? Be it cricket, be it I don't know. Do Indians like football? Any particular sport? Come on. You say basketball. Oh, okay. Basketball. Okay. The NBA. Yeah. I have always loved for a good chunk of time. I have loved basketball. I've just not had the liberty of watching it as I would love to because of the times when those games happen. Predominantly that. You say yes, I love to play football. We play in school also. Okay. Women's football is Kai Havertz has scored. It's 1-0 to the Arsenal. Wow. That was out of nowhere, out of thin air, you could argue. But he took that one comfortably well. What my parents do for a living, they are retired. Retired. Yep. I don't know how that's going to sound to you, but they are retired. Oh, that's a beautiful touch. Controls it with his, I think, with his right, then tucks it in with his left. Brilliant goal from Kai Havertz. It's onside. Thanks for your good time, bro. Thank you as well for choosing to have been part of the conversation tonight. I hope you've subscribed to the channel to help me support me on this journey of to keep growing this community, football tribe. UG, like I was telling Ishan, sorry, earlier on, sooner or later we'll be celebrating 3 years of Football Tribe UG in existence. But yeah, it's finished at both games have concluded. Real Madrid have been beaten by 2-1 at the Santiago Bernabeu, while Arsenal have managed to go away to Portugal and win the game of football by 1-0. Beautiful, beautiful sort of result for the Arsenal. A return to winning ways. First of all, they desperately needed that kind of result. It hasn't been a pretty sort of performance overall, in my humble opinion, but nonetheless, they've managed to get it over the line, and that is what matters the most. They needed a win in any form or shape that they could get it, and they've got it just that. Okay, brother, see you next time. Good night. A blessed night to you as well. For me, the broadcast does continue for the next, maybe half an hour as we get to digest the results from tonight. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure meeting you. I hope God blesses you in whatever endeavors that you do aspire to achieve. So, those were the full-time results. Bayern Munich are beating up against Real Madrid by 2-1. Those goals scored by Luis Diaz, then the other by Harry Kane, and then of course Kylian Mbappe on target for Real Madrid. And then Arsenal, Kai Havertz, second half substitute coming in for Martin Odegaard, has just won it for the Gunners there with quite the a brilliant take on that strike. Like I said, going into this particular fixture, Arsenal needed any win in any form of shape whatsoever, because they needed to overcome their shivers of the last 2 defeats. And they can only hope that this win sort of sparks them into life to get back to more winning ways or to a more winning routine as opposed to what they've had in the last 2 games, because their next game is going to be against FC Bournemouth in the early kickoff of match day 32 of the Premier League. So that's our own weekend on Saturday. We know very early kickoffs can be difficult, but like I said, they will take this victory for what it is. It won't matter that it is narrow. It won't matter that it wasn't pretty. It won't matter that it looked a bit like they scrapped themselves through it. It will matter that they have won tonight. That's the conversation they will be having. Earlier on, they had a goal squad, but that goal was ruled out for an offside due to Victor Yokeres's participation in the play or in participating in the goal when he came from an offside position. Now, to tell you how bad the game has been, XG has been 0.77 for Sporting CP and 0.78 for the Arsenal. That tells you how reserved it's been. That tells you how much both teams gave each other the respect. 5 shots on target for Sporting CP and 4 on target for Arsenal. 4 off target for Sporting CP and only 2 off target for the Arsenal, who edged possession to the tune of 56% compared to 44% of Sporting CP. Sporting CP did have their struggles building out of the back. They never looked like they were having quite the right grasp to it in terms of executing their game plan, whatever it was, in that sort of manner. And then they went on to attempt those long balls, those long passes, and they had 1 or 2 of them being successful. One caught Ben White off guard. So, but yeah, they'll take the result for what it is. The next reverse fixture will be next week on Wednesday. In as far as this stage of the UEFA Champions League is concerned, they do take back home that bit of an advantage. It's an advantage. It's a very, very slim one. We saw Liverpool carry a similar advantage last season at the round of 16 from Parc des Princes, but could not make that count in the reverse fixture at Anfield because they ended up losing to Paris Saint-Germain by 0-0 in normal or after extra time. That then forced them into post-match penalties that PSG managed to win and come out on top, and eventually they qualified for the quarterfinals then at the time. So really, they carry that advantage. I don't think that any Arsenal fan or those players or Mikel Arteta and his coaching staff or any minders there will delude themselves into thinking that this tie is done. Nor is it done for Bayern Munich despite their victory tonight against Real Madrid. So beautiful games of football. I think we've seen the kind of performance sort of we had expected. Especially particularly for the game between Bayern Munich and Real Madrid. First of all, it's not a surprise to me that Bayern Munich have come out on top. And I do not think Real Madrid had done enough in the game to deserve, let's say, a draw or something. Hi, tester of life. How are you doing, my brother? How is it going on your side? I'm doing all right on the side of the aisle. I hope you've been okay. So yeah. When you look at Bayern Munich's numbers, I think they are indicative of the kind of results that they carry away from the Santiago Bernabeu to take back to the Allianz Arena. They had an XG of 3.0 compared to Real Madrid's 1.8. I think that's 1.2 something or 1.15, better than Madrid. And 9 shots on target for Real Madrid, only 8 for Bayern Munich, 6 off target and 8 off target for Real Madrid. That is 8. You say, I'm good, man. You happy with the win today? I think I'll take it. I don't think I'm happy. Why? Because, and by the way, speaking of, you say, how are you? I'm good, my brother. I'm good. Hope you are too. I don't think I'm happy. Why? The reason as why I'm not happy is because I watched the game sort of in a tactical sense or with a little bit of a tactical mind, thinking of what they should be doing better as opposed to focusing or enjoying what they are doing in that exact moment, because in every deed or act that they do, oftentimes I'm finding points to critique to say you should have done that better. Okay, maybe sometimes I'm complimenting an action that they've taken and things of that nature, So that one does happen, really. That one does happen. It's not new at all. It does happen almost all the time. So I think that sort of place where me watching the game. I'll give you an example. If I'm watching Martin Odegaard on the ball, as he holds onto the ball, I'm looking for spaces where he can play that ball through. And I do not think it's only me who does that. I think a lot of football fans do that. It's more like you're watching the game, but you're also trying to direct the game at the same time. So, but I'll take the win for what it is because, like I said, Arsenal get to return back to winning ways following those two defeats against Manchester City and Southampton in the Carabao Cup and the FA Cups, respectively. They needed to respond in whichever manner they could, in whichever way they could, and that victory is, I can only hope that it is what sparks them back into life for the remainder of the season, for the two competitions that they are left in. Remember, they are only left in the UEFA Champions League, and they are leading the way in the Premier League title, for which out of the 7 games left to play, they need, I think, about 5 wins to guarantee winning the trophy. That's what they need, So, or to say an unbeaten run of 7 games where they win 4 and draw 3. Those are the kinds of results that they would need. Now, whether that is what will manifest at the end of the season, your guess is as good as mine. So, and the team selection, did Mikel do it the right thing? I did not think he did anything wrong. I think he went with the intuition or with the best options that he had. First of all, the thing about, because where you would want to try and critique him possibly would be, let's say, playing Martin Odegaard. Why? Because he's just returned from injury and you do not want to overload him. But then you look around that in the absence of Ebeleche Eze, his hands were literally tied. And Kai Havertz does not give you the fluidity in that sort of role as Martin Odegaard would sort of give you. Both have their pros and cons, but given that it was an away game, he needed to have a little bit more control on the ball, in terms of possessing it and, to keep the opponent a bit quiet. And then also when it comes to leading the press, even though he did not do that too well today, he does help you in that respect, Martin Odegaard, whereas Kai Havertz may not be as effective or as relentless in terms of leading the pressures on the ball for the opponent's side. So I do not think, when I look at those starting 11s, there's much I can criticize Mikel Arteta for, particularly because, I wouldn't start Max Dorman ahead of Noni Madueke, not because he's not capable, but Noni Madueke's small experience must count for something. Must count for something, really. So I sort of understood it. Then the backline, goalkeeping, I don't think any of us can argue against that. Again, he went with the best options that he had at his disposal. I was in a certain forum and somebody was saying, I was trying to make the argument that if the choice had been up to him, he would have started Christian Mosquera at right back ahead of Ben White. And I was thinking to myself, I do not think Christian Mosquera would give you more than what Ben White gives you in the offense. Not that he ended up giving you that in the game, Ben White, but again, I sort of value experience a lot more than young talent excitement. And for me, unless it is form versus lack of it, which wasn't the case between Christian Mosquera and Ben White. I understand he had a shambolic performance against Southampton, but today he was much better. He looked much better than he was against Southampton. So when I look at Christian Mosquera, it's not that he's not had games where he's had his struggles. If you do remember their 2-1 victory against Mansfield Town in the FA Cup, he struggled in that one. If you do remember their 2-1 victory at St. James's Park earlier on in the season, in the Premier League, he did sort of struggle through that game, and he was withdrawn at halftime, and they brought on William Saliba, who had precautionary been started on the bench. So I think I will exonerate Mikel Arteta on that one. The midfield, like I said, Declan Rice and Martin Zubimendi, that's his conservative double that he always goes with. Martin Odegaard was the best available option at his disposal, given the context of Arsenal's recent injuries. Even though we had gotten reports that Eberechi Eze is back in training, I did wonder yesterday whether he had been part of the traveling contingent. And my search at the time did not yield any results to that effect. Okay. You say 1-0 is not good enough for me. Okay, I understand. I completely understand, because, like I said, I do not think any Arsenal fan out there, the manager, his players, will delude themselves into thinking that tie is done and dusted. It's far from it. I've just cited for you the example of Liverpool last season when they went away to Parc des Princes and beat up against PSG by 1-0, returned home and lost by a similar score after extra time, which then led to penalties, and Liverpool were knocked out at the round of 16. So we know that that's still a huge possibility. However, like I said, this is the case of half a loaf is better than nothing. Look at it that way. If you do not look at it in the context of there's a second leg to come and that you would have wanted to win with more goals, obviously any Champions League opponent on a visit away from home, even if it were a home game, would love to win the tie with multiple goals. It gives them a better chance going into the second leg. But if, let's say, you isolate yourself from the context of it being a UEFA Champions League game for which you have a reverse fixture next week, and look at it as simply a win where Arsenal needed to bounce back to winning ways at whatever cost, regardless, I think you'll appreciate it a little more with those lenses. And the reason as why I want to discard the lenses of the whole context of the UEFA Champions League is for one reason. When you're fighting what appears to be a losing battle, you'll celebrate any win, any small milestone. Let's use the example of war. Back in the days when the Vietnamese fought against the Americans, they knew that the Americans were superior to them. But they consoled themselves in knowing that for every 8 or 10 of us that you'll kill, we're going to kill one of you. And with that, they sort of, in the end, that's how they won the war. At least history writers will tell you Vietnam won the war. So Arsenal needed this to get back their confidence. First of all, losing the cup final in itself was quite painful for them, must have been. Then you come to the FA Cup, and they are the most successful team in the FA Cup history with 14 accolades, next to them being Manchester United. And they get knocked out by a championship team in Southampton, who, by the way, tonight have just beaten up against Wrexham by 5-1. Those are the kinds of results that, one, dent your hopes, that dent your faith, conviction, that you're going to win a piece of silverware. When you look around for the two competitions they are left in, it's not yet done. It's not yet done. I said this about the FA Cup, that the FA Cup is easier to win than winning the UEFA Champions League when you get to the quarterfinals. Why? Because with the FA Cup, when you are at the quarterfinals, that means you are 4 games, you're actually 3 games away from winning it. You play a quarterfinal, single leg. You go to Wembley, play a single leg semi-final, and if you go through, you're into the finals, and bam, anything can happen. They are on. For the UEFA Champions League, if you're in the quarterfinals, it implies that you're 5 games away from winning it. So you can see you have 2 extra games. When you compare the Champions League title race and that of the Premier League, it's still not done. I think you and I already know what the mathematics are in the context of the Premier League title. Testa says you're a legend tribe. Thank you so much for the kind words. So basically, let me say this. You know, a lot of people, and when I say a lot of people, I don't mean to say majority, but a lot of people who do not mean Arsenal well, or who banter Arsenal, especially the rival fans, Man United, Tottenham Hotspur, Chelsea, etc., etc. Do you know how desperately they want to see Arsenal bottle this league title? Do you know how they want to see that? Now, in Arsenal, losing the other 2 titles, one at the final and one at the quarterfinal, the narrative was bound to be said. And you've seen, if you're a consumer of online general content information and some of these forums, you'll see the questions being posed. Are Arsenal going to bottle it? Are they bottling it? Those kinds of conversations. Hardly are they asking or trying to attempt to answer the question of how do Arsenal pick themselves up and win it? Why? Because they are rival fans. They relish in the misery of the Arsenal. But the unthinkable this season is Arsenal not winning the Premier League title. Why? First and foremost, it's 6 years of Mikel Arteta. 1 piece of silverware, that was the FA Cup in 2020. So there's that. That's context number 1. Actually, those are 2. Last title was 2020. 6 years of the project. Therefore, the expectation is that the project has reached maturity. And when something reaches maturity, it's supposed to give you fruits. The fruits of your investment, that's when you realize them at maturity. I don't know if they still use the same language, but they used to say, the check has not yet matured. If you wrote a check to somebody, it practically took 3 working days to be processed. So they would say the check has not yet matured. Or look at it in an investment perspective. Let's say you have let's say an investment fund or a unit trust or an insurance policy. It could be a 3-year policy, it could be a 5-year policy. So that means it will mature in 3 years or 5 years. So when you get to the 50th year, you expect to be paid dividends or to be paid whatever it is you expect. So basically, Arsenal are at that stage that Stan Kroenke and Josh Kroenke have invested in this Arsenal team, have invested in Mikel Arteta, all the resources they've invested in him since January 20, actually going back to December 2019, when he was appointed to sort of get him to this place. Now, both Arsenal fans, actually let me not even use the word both, but the entire football world think that this Arsenal project has come to maturity. Now, there are those who believe there are those who believe Mikel Arteta is not the man to lead Arsenal to the promised land. There's that class of them. Then you also have those who believe he will get it over the line, and then there are those who hope that they get it over the line. A good number of Arsenal fans who think or have ounces of doubt that he will not get it over the line I do not blame them either, because based on their own experience, he's not yet done it. So until he does it, they cannot believe beyond a reasonable doubt that he is capable of guiding them to the promised land. They've seen their team come second on 3 consecutive occasions. And if twice already they've lost the title to Manchester City, it will be heinous a crime for them to lose it to Manchester City once again, because Man City is their number 1 rival. Actually, their only rival for the title race. And the mathematics is simple. Because Man City have that one game in hand, and also Man City have to play Arsenal at the Etihad Stadium. So when you look at that 1-0 win, you have to carry it in the context of Arsenal needed anything to bring back their motivation, to bring back their sense of belief, to bring back their conviction that it is not slipping away. Because I think team spirit is a little like brand building. It takes so much time to do, but it can take so little time to take away. And that's the nature of life. In other words, imagine the number of pep talks Mikel Arteta has had to do, not just this season, but dating far back to his early days. The grief he's had to live in every time they've missed out on a piece of silverware or on achieving an objective. Remember in 2022-2023 campaign, quote unquote, they bottled the Premier League title. Do you know why people were not too harsh on them? Because here they were with the rookie manager Mikel Arteta, who the previous season had only guided them to a 5th place finish, and they had missed out on the UEFA Champions League. I think, I think by a point or so, at the expense of Tottenham Hotspurs. Here he was challenging for the league title, So, and challenging one of the very best, the master in Pep Guardiola, and that, Manchester City machine that went on to win the treble in 2023, UEFA Champions League title inclusive, as well as the FA Cup when they beat Man United in the finals. So, and then the subsequent year, literally the same thing happened. And the argument was in defense to say this team has not matured enough to sort of win it. Now came the 3rd year, which was last season, and a lot of people thought, I myself inclusive, that they had matured enough to win it, even though my prediction had not been for them to win it. My prediction had been for Man City and not Liverpool. So then Liverpool beat them to it. And everybody was thinking, how does Arne Slot come in his debut campaign and win the Premier League title? Reach Mikel Arteta. You've been there for then 5 years. So you can see why it is so important. So now this is the 4th year. So he cannot afford to bottle it. Otherwise, if he does bottle it, I do suspect he himself could resign. Because where do you find the courage to go again? Tell me where. Put yourself in his shoes. Where do you find the courage to carry on? Tester of Life says, good night, tribe. Enjoy the rest of your evening, man, and have sweet dreams. Thank you so much, Tester of Life. I wish you a blessed night as well. I hope you be good. So there's a lot at stake. There's a lot at stake for Arsenal. So they needed any win in any shape or format for encouragement, to restore their belief, to restore their conviction, to restore their hope. You see, life is all about hope. You keep hoping that God will bless the things you put your hands onto and that they shall bear fruit. You keep hoping that tomorrow will be better than yesterday or will be better than today. You keep hoping that if the stars align, you'll hit the jackpot. You keep hoping that if you put in the hard work, then you will realize the fruits. It may not always be the case, as we know life, but you keep hoping in some form or shape. Oftentimes, your hopes will be diminished depending on what the results will be. But you must try and find to summon your courage to go again. Now, for some people, summoning their courage to go again means a switch of priorities or industry or in an entire playing ground. For others, it's the same playing ground. So that's why I say that if Nkala Chita were to miss out on major piece of silverware this season, he could consider resigning before he's shown the exit. Not that the writing is on the wall that if he does miss out on it all, he will be shown the exit. But himself as an individual, he would be questioning himself, how do I pick myself up and go again? It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing. How long is it? How long is what? I'm trying to read your name, Alza. Can I call you better? Because I do not want to mispronounce your name. But I've chosen the shortest form of it in between there, after the first 3 letters. Can I call you better, if you don't mind? You did. It's well, though. All right. Thank you. So, how long is what? The live? We've been on for 1 hour thus far. So, and we'll be back again at it tomorrow, both in the morning and at night. So, yeah, thank you so much for chipping in. I hope you've done me the kind honor and favor and liked the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel, since it is your first time to see you here. So, anyways, guys, it's been a wonderful night thus far. It's been a very long day for me. Allow me call it a night here and wish you a wonderful night. And then we will pick up the pieces tomorrow morning and review more of those results and digest them for what they mean. But I wish to say thank you so much to all of you that have been part of tonight's broadcast. I want to send my special thanks to Sanjay or Ishani. Yes, thank you so much for having been part of tonight's broadcast. Nori, thank you so much. DJ Nick Cooper, thank you so much. Jeffrey Epstein, thank you so much for having been part of it. Then, who else? Abed Dumo from South Africa, Cape Town, thank you so much for having been part of tonight's engagement. Then, who else? Tester of Life, it is always a pleasure to see you back on the channel. And then to you, Beta, thank you so much. Have a blessed night, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.